when Corey's up here speaking, and then it's my turn, it's like, oh, everybody's gone. But I appreciate all of you guys being here, and I'm the kind of person that I could be totally content and comfortable standing in a corner not talking to anyone, and so the fact that there's sparse chairs in here, that's perfectly fine with me. Give you a little introduction. The seminar today is on solo hunting off-grid. So I'm going to kind of explain to you a little bit about what solo hunting is and how I do it and how I bring it into the television show, as well as a little bit about Off-Grid Hunter, which is a new show that I'm starting, but kind of tying the two together and how a person can plan for a backcountry hunt by himself if he has to. Obviously, my first suggestion is to not do it. I mean, if anybody's a Cub Scout or went to scouting, it's like, be prepared, buddy system, all those kinds of things. It's all true, because when you run into troubles by yourself, it's a lot less fun to deal with, and it's a lot more dangerous. But there's a lot of opportunity out there for a person that may not have hunting party or buddies that have the same work schedule. There's no reason that you're going to stay home and not go hunting. So I would bet that there's a lot of you guys out there, a lot of you people that go hunting on your own, whether it's a day hunt, an afternoon hunt, or even a multi-day extended hunt. So I'm going to kind of go into some of those things. One thing you'll see is I'm not really the technical guy. I don't get technical into the gear and equipment and what you should use and shouldn't use. I tell people, never ask a TV personality what equipment they should use, because a lot of us are being paid to use different things. There's so much good equipment out there that fits different individuals differently, and I'll go into some of those details. But give you a little background into me and a little bit into why the solo hunting format fits me. Is I grew up in central Idaho in the middle of nowhere. Grew up about as poor as you possibly could. This is 2 single wide trailers that my dad put together right on the top of the mountain. The beauty to this was as growing up as children, my brothers and sisters and I, we pretty much had farmland all down below us for as far as you can see, and behind us was all BLM and Forest Service land for as far as you can see. You could go 100 miles, well, I think it's 60 miles as the crow flies, and you end up in Sun Valley. You know, so it was out in the middle of the nowhere, and basically we grew up in the foothills and in the mountains from the time we were little kids. We'd take my little brother Boyd, who's in the diapers there, I'm in the red overalls, and we had this spot where we would go play, where we'd play trucks and everything, and it was the spot where the deer would come down and lick the rocks and get mineral out of the rocks, because all the rocks were smooth. So we'd play trucks there, and I go back there and visit it now, and it's like a mile away from the house, back up on the foothills. It's a wonder none of us got bit by rattlesnakes or anything like that. Growing up, we lived on the farm and worked the farm mostly, and so my dad didn't hunt, and so he didn't get us into hunting. The way that my brothers and I got involved with hunting was when I was 12 years old. A guy moved to the valley that was avid hunter. He was ex-military, and my dad also installed carpet on the side, so he was installing carpet for this guy. And his name was Carl Van Dusen. And when we went over there to his house, I walked into his basement. I was just enamored by all the dead animals and he was into archery, mostly longbows and flu-flus. So he had all this arrow-making equipment and these stick bows. And I just remember my brothers and I were like, this guy is the coolest guy in the world. You know, I mean, he's got all this stuff. And we had seen, pictures and magazines and that, but because my dad never hunted, we never had the opportunity to get involved with it. So fortunately, it was when we were young we saw this, and this guy had the biggest video library of all the hunting videos you can imagine, from guys like, I'm forgetting their names, Larry D. Jones and Wayne Carlton. And some of the guys that started filming way a long time ago, and we just watched every single video. And I can remember thinking and telling myself, I'm like, you know what? When I grow up, I want to do that. That's what I want to do for the job. And it's either that or I'm going to be a country music singer. And so you can kind of see how that turned out, but the odds are pretty much the same. One thing I just want to touch on is when you hunt by yourself, or even when you hunt not by yourself, you run into a lot of adversity, and you have a lot of times where the weather's crappy or you're not finding deer, and you're just like, why am I out here? I should just go home and go golfing or something, or go hang out with the kids. But my dad taught me, he was the type of guy that he could bust an axle on a tractor and still laugh about it, and come into the house just laughing, saying, hey, guys, you want to come take a picture of this or whatever? I mean, just had a really has a really good, I say had, he has a very good personality and ability to find joy and excitement in everything. And I think that must have rubbed off on me because like, there's times when I'm out there by myself and it's so stinking miserable and I'll just be chuckling because I'm like, this is fun. I don't know why. It's weird because it's like you're subjecting yourself to all this torture, but it's fun. Like it makes you feel like a man or whatever, but really something that I enjoy. So how many of you out here have actually even seen Solo Hunter on the Outdoor Channel or heard of it or on YouTube or anything? There's a few of you not. So what you'll see with the show and with the Solo Hunter brand is there's like split personality there, which also fits me really well. It's like I have the hunter side and then I have the producer cameraman side. So there's a lot of people that are interested in the hunting part of it, and there's a lot of people that are interested in the video part of it and the filming. And really, honestly, that's where my passion lies. You could take hunting out of my life and I'm still a happy man. I mean, if I hunt less, that means I just get a golf ball and play with my kids. But what I'm going to show you here is the season 5 teaser, which is all of our new episodes that are coming up this summer in July. This is kind of a highlight reel of what's to come. You'll see myself and my co-host Remy Warren. We both live in Reno, but you'll see some of the new footage. Aaron, I must be yelling.
You don't like shaky stuff, right? Oh man. Pretty old.
Tired, frustrated, cold. I'm in a complaining mode. What's wrong with me? I don't complain. I'm not the kind of guy that complains about it. Rule number 1, never complain.
Big country, beast of a pack out of here. Get some town. Put fire. Take it out of my stomach. I'm back. Thought I'd let you know. See if somebody's probably like, "Hey, you made it?" I made it. Didn't work out as planned. Okay, well, welcome to the Mordor. Kind of a mess. One of my worst fears. Tell you what, it's a bright light. Put the camera on. Finally, man. Hooped already. It's carnal. It's hunting. Rocky behind 150 yards. You want to see him, don't you? Boom. Look at that guy. Man, they're moving fast. I can hear him. Time to get stealthy and get in there. Reap a big buck. Got the meat all cool. I'm going to throw it back. And get off the mountain. It's pretty good looking tire country here. I'm going to pick out a bull somewhere. I guess I shouldn't miss at 50 yards, but you never know.
Waiting for hours for the boat to stand up. They got into a big herd elk and just didn't really have a shot.
That big fire. Hungry, thirsty, drink. Old, fire. You wonder why I'm crazy? That's why. I quit waiting. Heck, I was trying to kill him. The red is red. There's certainly a lot bigger bulls on the mountain, but this one's the most dead. This is elk country right here, my friends. That was the biggest cluster ever.
My brother asked me why I'm always breathing so heavy in my footage? Because I'm always hiking my brains out.
I always have to chuckle when I watch that because it's like it's funny. I really like how we do our show and how we're doing it because I feel so comfortable just talking to this camera. I mean, it's really weird, but when you're out there, I've said it before, when you're out there by yourself, you become who you really are. Like, I mean, I feel like it's so comfortable to just be myself, and my personality, I think, comes out more when I'm just talking to the camera. And my wife's funny. She's like, what's it like to have people recognize you this time? I'm like, they don't. But she's all, well, there's millions of people watching you every week on TV. I'm like, not really. I mean, I just talk into the camera the whole time. I really don't have to think about that or worry about that. And ultimately, we're just out there having fun and having a great hunt. And all of those hunts that you saw there are either over-the-counter tags or there's something that we have drawn. You know, we kind of pride ourselves on actually going out and hunting. That's the way I want to be. I don't want to be. I mean, at some stage, I'd like to go on a sheep hunt in Alaska and do those kinds of things and have somebody show me how to do that. And I realize that I don't know everything, but just going through the research and trying to figure out different areas and different species, different animals. For instance, in Nevada, I live in Reno. I grew up in central Idaho, but I live in Reno and I've lived there for 6 or 7 years. Every year, I've drawn a different unit for mule deer. And I've done that kind of intentionally because it's like, once I've been there, been somewhere, whether I've had success or not, I'm like, okay, I've kind of been here. So I put in for a different area and I've drawn a different unit every year because I get the excitement of going to new places and trying different things. And to the point now when I travel out of state, I like to do the same thing in different states. And I've never hunted Utah before, so I've got so many guys trying to convince me to come and hunt in Utah that I may end up doing it. But I just like to see a lot of different country, and I like the process of finding the animals, whether they're trophy class or not. I don't care. I just like that hunt part of it. And I know a lot of guys say it's all about the hunt, not about the kill, but at the end of the day, that everybody's so proud of this shot right here, and if it's not a 30-inch 4-point or something, they're disappointed, or if it's not a 350 bull, they're upset with themselves. It's like, crap, I'm going to shoot a 5x5 any day of the week, no question, unless I draw something really special, a nice hunt, which I never have, or rarely have. But I'll talk a little bit about the hunting side and planning and preparing for a hunt on your own or solo, since that's what we're here for. And a lot of this can apply to hunts with your buddies and everything, but first thing, just like what Corey touched on there at the end, is understand your limitations, understand your physical capabilities, understand your mental capabilities, because if you're out there by yourself for 4 or 5 days, you either start talking to yourself if you don't have a camera to talk to, and you find yourself being not afraid of things, but you just become a different person, really. You become who you really are. So my suggestion is plan according to your strengths, according to your comfort levels. So if you've never spent the night in the wild by yourself, how many of you have ever spent the night in the wild by yourself? A lot of you guys all know what I'm talking about. How many of you spent more than one night, like 5 nighs in a row by yourself? Awesome. It's different, isn't it? It's not like having somebody there with you. I had a Nevada mule deer hunt 2 years ago, and I'm laying there in my bivvy, it's a clear sky. I'm watching the stars, the moon, and I'm just kind of daydreaming and thinking. Next thing you know, there's a herd of domestic sheep up behind, and I hear everything get quiet. And I grew up on a farm, I'm like, crap, stuff gets quiet, something's about to go down. Next thing I know is I hear this sheep just bellowing and just being killed and being taken down. And it was just right behind me. I'm like, well, it's either a mountain lion or a coyote, but if I just lay here and stay steady, unfortunately, if they kill the sheep, they're not going to be looking for anything else. They're going to be done hunting for the night. So that gave me a little bit of comfort, but I didn't really sleep very well. Next morning, I woke up and found the dead sheep. Unfortunately, it was coyotes that had killed it. As you can tell, because they hamstrung it to death, from the back end, whereas a mountain lion does things a little bit more efficiently. But it just there's different things out there at night that you get different experiences that if you're not careful and keep control of your mind, if you're not in the right mental mind frame, you'll find yourself hiking your butt off to the truck in the middle of the night because you'll want to get out of there. So set yourself up for success. If you've never done it before, plan one in early season. Do an August or a September archery mule deer hunt. Do something to where You're within a couple miles of the truck. If you get into trouble, you can get yourself out. You're comfortable because it's only 30, 40 degrees at night rather than 0 or below 0. And you just feel like you can set yourself up for success and have fun. I touched a little bit about the research and development. So this applies whether you're going by yourself or not, but it's more important, in my opinion, when you're by yourself. When I know I'm going to go hunt an area, whether I've bought that over-the-counter tag or I've drawn the tag, I'll research that map just as much as I possibly can so that even in the dark, I know where I'm at even without a GPS. Because batteries go dead, things happen, units fail. I want to know that everywhere I'm at, I know the terrain and I know which direction and how to get out of it. One thing that I do for my wife is I chart out on my map. I say, okay, here's my #1 camp. This is where I'm at. This is Camp A. If the stuff's not going on here, this is going to be Camp B, C, D, and I go to wherever. So as long as I'm gone for the 4, 5, 6, 8 days, she knows that I'm going to be at one of those points. I do the same. I give that same exact map to my brother, and then I give it to one of my friends so that if she can't find it or needs some extra security, she's going to call one of them and say, hey, where's Tim? I haven't heard from him. So I get to know and understand those maps as good as I can, and the terrain. One thing I've learned is you've got to expect the unexpected and plan and prepare for the unexpected. Everywhere I go, whether it's in my day pack, which this is my day pack too, I always have a safety and survival kit. This one's the survival medic from Survive Outdoors Longer. And I always have quick clot, blood clot, because I mean, even in here, something could happen. And if I'm the first one there, I can rip open this blood clot and get it taken care of. But I'm always prepared, and it's not just a first aid kit, but it has fire starter, it has tape, it has fishing, it has everything a person would need to be able to survive if they needed to. The reason I bring that up is you never know when something is going to happen, whether it's by yourself or whether it's other people. I personally always carry a satellite phone with me on my hunts because I have a wife, I have a 9-year-old son, a 7-year-old daughter, and a 20-month-old daughter. And it's like, I like to talk to them. I love my family. Some guys may not like their families as well, but I want to be able to pick up that phone and have that security. So there's other tracking devices and other things that you can do to help people know that you're okay when you're out there by yourselves, when there's not cell coverage. But I personally prefer a satellite phone. Case in point, this last Tuesday, I went on a fundraiser hike for the local Cabela's there in Reno. And we had to hike to the top of Peavine Peak, which is about 6 miles, I think, as the crow flies through and up to this peak from the valley floor. So the valley floor is down there, and we're nearly to the top up here. As we get to the top, there's some people running around looking for their buddy. Their buddy had rolled his four-wheeler and crushed his shoulder, and they could figure out where he was at, he either lost his radio, didn't work or something, but they didn't know where he was. They're like, he's down there somewhere, we don't know, but he's rolled his four-wheeler and he's hurt pretty bad. So we bailed off the mountain and split up and found this guy, and he had crushed his shoulder and crushed his leg and rolled his four-wheeler. He'd been laying there for about 2 hours at that point. So by the time we were able to get him taken care of, we were able to get him wrapped up and taken care of, and we were able to call a lifeline, get him in. He had been out there in the cold for 2.5 hours. And it looks warm and sunny, but the wind was blowing about 40 miles an hour and it was cold. And you know, if you're just laying there exposed, he was just out for a day ride, an afternoon ride on his four-wheeler, or a morning ride. And he wasn't expecting to have to be extracted. So that's just where I say is you always have to be prepared and never let your guard down. I'll touch on gear a little bit, but I kind of want to more go into some other things. So hopefully this is okay. But the reason is like I said before, is like we all have our own incentives and reasons for using the gear that we use, whether it's the boots or the socks or the backpacks or anything else. There's so many different types of people out there, different body sizes, different, some guys have flat feet, some people have high arches. So it's really hard for me to say, hey, use this pair of boots. This is the best pair of boots, out there. Use this backpack. It's going to work for you just great. So that's why I don't go in great detail into the equipment. Other than choose good equipment. Make sure that whatever you can afford, you've got clothing that is going to work well for you. I obviously promote Under Armour a little bit because of my association with the show, but does Under Armour necessarily have the best hunting gear? I'm not going to say yes or no. There's a lot of really good stuff out there. For me, it all starts from the ground up, from my feet, you know, clear to the top. And again, there's a lot of boots that are going to fit somebody's feet better. I personally, I hunt in my tennis shoes a lot. I like lightweight. I've never rolled an ankle in my life. It's because I have cankles pretty much. But I never worry about stability. Even in you know, when I went to New Zealand and in Idaho where I grew up in the rugged mountains, walking through the shale and everything, I'm perfectly cool with a pair of low ankle shoes. I don't have any problems and never have, but eventually it could happen. But I personally like that. Would I recommend that or suggest that? No. I would recommend a good boot, a nice solid shank in it, you know, something heavy duty that can handle the rough terrain. As far as socks go, no cotton. Something that's gonna wear well and keep your feet comfortable. And you have to experiment with what your feet are. Some guys are sweaters, sweat profusely. My feet don't sweat. So it just is so hard to recommend one specific thing. Just find that thing that works best for you and stick with it. Same thing with layering. I'm a big layer guy. I'll go up as many as 5 to 7 layers on any given hunt or any given day. And wherever I go, I make sure that I have those layers. You know, it starts from your dry luxe underwear that are going to wick the moisture away from your body, and then a light layer that's going to wick moisture even further. But have those layers that are going to, as the moisture is coming out of you might have a $100 pair of Under Armour base layers, but you might have a cotton, Carhartt jacket on. That's not going to do you much good because all the water is going to come out of your base layer, and it's going to absorb and soak into your cotton jacket, so that the moisture is still going to be in and around your body. If the temperature drops and everything gets cold, you're going to be in a rough situation. So I like to have clothing that is designed for wicking moisture all the way out through the shell. I rarely wear a rain shell. If it's raining, I'll put on a rubber rain coat. I don't usually like to wear the Gore-Tex or the clothing that says it's rain waterproof, the tree coats and those types of fabrics. I don't wear them because they don't breathe very well for me. Another case in point is this year I have been able to be on Under Armour's research and development team for their new Western hunting apparel line that's coming out. And so all this fall, Rennie and I, with 6 of the other Ridge Reaper guys, were able to wear this clothing and test it out and see how we liked it. And there's this one hooded shell that I love. If you put that thing on, you're like, yeah, I'm just getting after it. This thing fits good, it looks good, it has a hood, stretches. It's just a beautiful piece of equipment. But I took it to Montana, and as I'm just hiking, sweating, and working up, when I got to where it was time for me to pull out the camp and do everything, I pull off that outer shell, and it's just soaking wet. It's dripping from the inside because somehow in the lamination process, something happened to it where it overheated or whatever because it was a prototype. It was just encapsulating, it was holding that water right on me. And so I was drenched, and I was a little bit frustrated with it. But had I chose to stay on the mountain, I probably would have had a pretty rough night because I was already wet. It would have been pretty cold. Fortunately, I just decided to hike out and get out of it. So choose your outer clothing wisely. Beast of Burden. I don't remember where I was going with that. This is just an image of Remy in Alaska with his backpack and a sheep that he had killed up there. That gets into backpacks and what works well for a guy. I personally am a frame pack guy. I don't use a day pack, even if I'm just going out for a quick afternoon hunt or a day hike. I like to have a frame pack, something that is designed for, and I'll just show you this pack, something that's designed for hauling weight, and it's a hauler, whether it's this pack, whether it's my Stone Glacier or whatever, something that I can put as much weight as my little legs can carry on there. The reason is if I get out there and I get lucky and I'm 2 miles from the truck and I smash a big buck right at dark, I don't want to have to go back to the truck and then back up and back and forth for weight. I want to get to that animal, be able to take them apart, do my thing, get it in the pack, and get off. I mean, 90% of the time I'm by myself. I don't want to have to make multiple trips, and I don't have the luxury of having, you know, a couple of guys to grab a leg and take that thing out whole. So no matter where I go, I always have a frame pack, and that's me personally. Other guys, they like to have fanny pack, they like to have day packs. That's cool. That's fine with me. It's awesome. So a lot of good packs on the market, both with the internal frame or external frame. I would just say, just find something that works good for your body. You know, if you're a short, fat guy like me, some of these bags that are taller with a longer torso, like this one, they take a lot more adjustments and more getting used to. If you're a tall, skinny, broad shoulders guy, some of these shorter packs aren't going to work for you. You're going to want something with a longer torso. So find something that fits your body specifically, and that will match your hunting style. Same thing with shelter. A lot of different types of shelters out there. I love bivvies in August and September when the weather is fair. I like to be able to sleep under the stars, but 90% of the time I'm in a tent because I'm afraid of the dark. So, well, I say I'm afraid of the dark. I'm not all the way afraid of the dark, but I'm a little bit afraid of the dark. Sense of security, that's right. It's like that little 32nd of an inch, you know, that's a 6-inch firewall. Yeah. So there's just something to having that security, and if that's going to help your psyche and help your mentality, whether you've got 4 guys with you or 1, you know, when I was in Alaska, it was me and 1 other guy, and in the middle of the night, I could hear the sloshing of a bear walking in the slough around us, and it's like, I felt okay because I had my gun and everything, and the tent was there, but it's like, that damn thing could be 900 pounds, I don't know, I mean, he's coming through there as fast as he wants to, so. But it does help with your psyche, with your mental. So find a good tent. I personally use a Big Agnes 2-person tent, just for its size, its packability, and everything. I really like that tent. Easton makes good tents as well. Food. I'll touch on food a little bit. I'm not really a food connoisseur or a food professional, or whatever. There's Mountain House and other things, but I have found a system that works really, really well for me that I like. And what that is I like to eat a big breakfast, and I like to hydrate a lot in the morning time, because overnight you're expelling a lot of moisture out of your body just while you're sleeping. The condensation is proof of that. So what I'll do is for my breakfast, typically if I'm going on a 4, 5, 6 day hunt, is I'll take as much protein powder as I can, equivalent of about 300 to 500 calories worth of protein shake. Mix that with my oatmeal, which is, I don't use just regular oatmeal, I use the high-end sugar kind, the kind that the kids like. It's like high-end sugar, has the fruit particle, the fruit pieces and everything. And I put that in a Ziploc bag so that equivalent, if you were to look at the packaging in the meals, that's equivalent to like 800 to 1,000 calories. I mean, it's a beefy meal. But all you got to do is pour some water in that and seal it and let it soften up, and then I just suck it right out of the Ziploc bag. So that way I've got a really lightweight, super high calorie, a little bit of sugar, so you get some energy behind it. But it's about a 50-50 protein carb mix. And I do that throughout the day. Is if I'm eating something, I never eat just protein, especially during the midday, because if I don't get that carbohydrate and that energy food to balance it out, I'm gonna be tired as hell that afternoon, because I've just been eating protein and I don't have the energy that I would need from the carbohydrates. So I do pretty much a 50-50 balance as I can. If I have that heavy breakfast throughout the day, I just nibble. I mean, I might throw something in my mouth every 40, 50 minutes, every hour. I've got 100, 200 calories that I'm trying to eat throughout the day, but it's all lightweight food. It's like dried fruit, it's nuts, it's granola, it's jerky, it's any of those lightweight things. And then at about 3, 4 o'clock, I'll eat another big meal, whether it's a Mountain House or whether it's a lot more of the same that I've been eating, but I'll try to pack in another 1,000 calories, which is 800 to 1,000 calories at 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and that gets me through the rest of my evening and day hunt. Then what I'll do is I'll go to bed hungry. Like I feel like there's two reasonings here. I'm not going to say advantages, because there may be a dietitian out there like my wife and says, "You're stupid, that's crazy." Because my wife's a dietitian. She's like, "That's crazy, that doesn't work." Well, babe, it works. I promise, I do it. So I'll eat heavy like 3, 4 in the afternoon, and I'll go to bed on an empty stomach, because I'm already 10 pounds overweight as it is. As I'm sleeping, my body's recovering and my body is refueling, but it's refueling from itself. It's pulling from my fat reserves and pulling from everything that it can, because there's no food in there for it to pull from. My theory is there, and I'm going to say it's a theory, is like it's burning my body fat. So it's burning hotter. Fat burns way hotter than granola or protein does. It's the same thing as if you eat a chunk of fat or some foods that are high in fat right before you go to bed. When it's cold outside, you'll sleep warmer because your body is burning that fat and you'll sleep warmer. And it's proven. A lot of survival books and everything will say, yeah, eat something high in fat before you go to bed in the cold weather because your body will burn hotter. So my theory is if I'm burning my own fat, I'm sleeping a lot warmer. And I'm here, so I've made it through some of the nights. But the advantage there is it saves me on one meal per day. So if I'm on a 5 or 6 day hunt, that's 5 or 6 fewer bags that I've got to carry or different things that I've got to carry. So it lightens my load, it eliminates some of my bulk, and then you rely on luck. The other part of it is if you can kill a grouse or you come across a snake or something, some good hearty food that you can come across and eat while you're hunting, that's just a bonus. You shoot your deer early and go home on the second day, that's fine too. Along the similar lines as a tent, key element to security and survival is fire. If you can't make a fire, then you better be prepared for the consequences of not having a fire, I guess. I like fire because even in the midday, whether it's winter or whether it's summer, I like to, a lot of us that elk hunt, it can get pretty chilly and stuff, but in the middle of the day, stuff might not be going on, so you lay down and take a nap, and sometimes I'll just crack open a little fire and just enjoy the fire. Certainly in the cold, when it's snowy and that, almost every day, midday, I'll break down and I'll build a fire because the animals aren't moving or whatever. And I'll just enjoy the atmosphere and relaxation. They say that there's two things, there's something about babies and fire. You can just sit there and stare at them all day long and be totally content. The other thing with fire is survival and safety. If you get into a situation where you're on your own or you're stranded or you're lost, heaven forbid you get lost, you can build a fire and have that comfort and have that survival aspect to it. So I always carry at least 2 to 3 forms of being able to make fire, like modern forms. I have a lighter, I have fire starters, and then if you really get desperate and in trouble, you've got your shoelaces and you can try to make a wood bow and go survivor man, but I'd recommend not getting to that level. Because it's not as easy as they make it look on TV, I promise. I love hunting on my own. Even when my brother and I go hunting together, it's like we're at camp and we wake up in the morning, we're like, what do you want to do? I don't know, what do you want? We do that whole thing and it's like, I'm going to go this way, you go that way, and we have a great time, and that's just our style. We like to just spend time in the wild on our own, a lot for the mental part of it, but also, it's just, I feel like I'm a more effective hunter. He feels like he is. There's other guys that they won't stop a deer unless they've got a spotter. If they don't have somebody giving them hand signals or whatever, they're not going to go after that deer. Well, to me, that's crazy. Just go hunt, have fun, and enjoy while you're out there. The reality of it is you're never really, in today's society, you're never really alone out there. There's other hunters. It's hunting season. There's other guys you come across, different people. And so it is what it is. If solo hunting's not your thing and you don't want to hunt by yourself or you don't enjoy it or it's just not part of your life, don't do it. Take your boys out, enjoy hunting with other people. There's certainly a lot of advantages to having other people with you, just to help pack the meat out, really. Here's a little example. This year I drew one of the few times I've actually drawn a good tag. I had an archery elk tag in Nevada in area, I'll tell you the area, if I look it up. It's 061, 071, so it's the West Jarbidge up on the Idaho border. Killer area, tons of elk. And I hunted hard for 8 or 10 days. I'd go up for a few days and I'd come home and I'd go back up. And then the last 3 days of season, there's Remy's calling. Last few days of the season, I decided I wanted to take my son. My son's 9 years old and he'd been begging me and I hadn't taken him hunting up to that point. So I said, all right, I'll take you out of school. We'll go the last 2 days of the season. I think there was 3 days, but we hunted Friday and Saturday. But I knew that my odds of killing an elk went way down. But So part of me was like, man, I don't really want to bring him because like, this is a limited tag. I took him anyway, and we had a blast. And on this last day, that Saturday, we're hiking our brains out, and we get up to this mountain, and then here comes this Polaris Ranger up behind us. And it was these two guys. As we got to talking, the guy in the back, his name was, what was his name? I can't remember. But anyway, he's like, hey, Hudson. Hudson's my son. He goes, what's it like to be hunting with a hunting TV guy and a professional baseball player? Hudson immediately was like, professional baseball player? So it turns out this is Kevin Brown. He was he's an ex-pitcher for the, I think the Dodgers, the Yankees, and a bunch. He was a real closer. But apparently, if any of you guys know baseball, he's a pretty bad dude, you know, a really good pitcher. I had no clue. He knew who I was. He's like, oh, you're that solo hunter guy. You know, I love your show and this and that. But at that point, Hudson was like, Kevin, would you mind if I hunted with you today? And I was like, no, Hudson, you got to do it. He's like, but Kevin was like, yeah, Hudson, I'd love to have you with me. So at that point, when you see the episode and when you see the footage, it all becomes no longer about me. And that's kind of the negative byproduct of my TV show and hunting solo and having to do all the things is suddenly everything becomes about me sometimes. You know, in my mind, everything becomes about me. It's like, I got to do this, I got to go here, I got to do that. And it's like, at that point, it was just a big smack in the face where it's like, oh, this is about my son all of a sudden. You know, this is his hunt and his journey. And in the back of my mind, I didn't even think about that elk tag anymore. I just thought, whatever he wants to do today, we're going to do it. And so at that point, Hudson went with them, and Hudson was like, can I call the elk? Yeah. And then finally that afternoon, we got on a huge bull, and I was like, Kevin, you guys go after the bull. I'll keep Hudson back. And so they went after this elk. Hudson and I went another way, which turned out to be good because they flew all the elk out into us. So that afternoon, I just let Hudson do the calling. I'm like, son, this is your hunt. You do the calling. And I'll be danged if that little kid didn't call in. There was 7 or 8 bulls, and when you watch the episode this summer, it's incredible. It was like God reached down and said, this boy's going to have a kick-butt experience tonight. And there was just elk coming around us all over where I was like, man, this is going to happen. And it was just a tremendous experience. I'm not going to tell you exactly how it ended out, but I did have a heavy load going down the trail back to the four-wheeler, and it wasn't an elk. It was a 9-year-old boy, pretty much. I guess kind of the side story to that, I didn't share this in any of my other seminars, and I've shared it in other events before, but as we're going down, it's dark. I mean, it's black. If you look at the dates, you look at the moon phase and where it was, there's no moon. And when you're out there at 9,000 feet elevation with no moon, cloud cover, it is dark. And I've been in the dark before, but my son, had never been in the dark. So he immediately freaks out and he's crying, and I'm trying to keep him comforted. And we're going down this mountain, and eventually I get to where I'm piggybacking him on top of my backpack. And I get to the point where I'm like, I'm not exactly sure where I'm at here. You know, I knew downhill was where the four-wheeler was. I knew downhill was the way to get out, but if we went down this ridge, you know, if we went down the wrong ridge, we're going to hit the road, then we got to backtrack back up, and it's going to take me easy 2 hours to get to the quad from where that was. But if we take the correct ridge, which happened to be the right ridge, I guess, we'd end up right at the four-wheeler. So we get going down, and I made the stupid mistake to verbalize it. I said, man, I don't know if I'm going the right way. What? He goes crazy. We're lost. We're going to die. I'm like, son, you know. But then I started thinking in my mind, I'm like, this is going to be a bad day for my son. It's going to be terrible. And as we're looking down, you know, trying to see, a light turns on the bottom of the canyon. And then it starts coming up, and it was Kevin and Clay. Clay was coming up the 2-track. And it was like, you know, that the light saved, got us going in the right direction, and they came all the way up and got us. So get a little spiritual line, I guess, but it's like their light saved us. So go to the light. Unless you're in a car crash or dying or something, don't go to the light. But it was great to us because it was like a good analogy, I suppose. So I don't know why I shared that story, but I did. Hunting versus filming, like 2 passions of mine. I love to hunt, love to film. Take either one of them away from me, I'm thinking it's just fine. Just have more time with my family, more time golfing. It's not my life. I get comments a lot of times, people are like, man, you got the best job in the world. You get to hunt for a living, you're paid to hunt, be out there, and I'm like, hunting's 10% maybe of my life. My family's the rest of it. And filming is a small percentage of it. But I do have a passion behind it, and I really like the filming aspect. And that's why when I created Solo Hunter, I wanted it to be no TV crews, no cameramen. And it didn't always start out that way because I had other contractual obligations with other sponsors and TV shows, so I had a cameraman and was doing different things at different times. But finally, in the last couple of years, I've been able to get the Solo Hunter brand and everything to where I really wanted it to be. And when I started, I didn't know how powerful it was going to be, but we've got a really strong following of guys that are avid hunters and like to film and like to get out and like that whole aspect of it. And it's kind of intriguing of how we can pull it all together to where sometimes I even forget that there's no cameraman when I'm watching some of our hunts. I'm like, wow, we did a good job here. And then others of them, I'm getting nauseous and thinking, man, this is ridiculous. But I do have the passion. I love filming and photography. I love cameras and lenses. I like how they work. My wife thinks that I obsess about hunting, but really this is what I obsess about. Like, if I could have a bunch of money and I could buy the right equipment and everything, you think that it'd just be a blast. But kind of close things off a little bit along those lines. I obviously produce a hunting television show. I have a production company, so we produce other projects and other things, some T-roping and that type of thing. I'm starting a new series called Off-Grid Hunter. And from the outside and from the name and from everything, it appears to be another hunting show. And people are like, great, another hunting show. We got enough hunting shows, and they all suck. Nobody does it right, and everybody fakes stuff, and everybody does this. And it's like, yeah, I realize that. I know that's how things happen. We all have our own unique style of producing the show. I do Solo Hunter the way I like it. Whether anybody else likes it or not, I have my solo blinders on. They can tell me and give me suggestions and everything, and I'll take that on consideration. But it's like, nope, this is me. This is how I like it. And if I'm just counting on there being a lot of people that are the same way, because there's enough different types of shows out there in entertainment that fit everybody else's personalities and styles. So here's a little teaser for Off Grid, which is a series that's going to be starting this summer. And it features a lot of different cast members, a lot of different personalities. The video is heavy into the hunting side of it, but there's a lot more to it. There's way more to it. Oops, backwards. Display.
Off-grid is not about trapping around with no technology, naked in the wild. It's not about proving your badassness to your make-believe friends. Oh no, it's more. It's much, much more.
Kind of funny, it says in there, it's not about a bad masses, and there I am flexing my muscle. What a joke that was. All right, so that's Off-Grid, and it's more of a documentary / reality series where I travel, around the western United States, meeting and interviewing different people and featuring their lifestyles. How some guy might be a pastor and marry people on the weekends, another guy owns a rock climbing company. We're regular people inside society, and it's trying to bridge the gap between hunter and non-hunter, people that don't understand why animals need to be killed and why we do certain things, and that trying to bridge that gap and produce something that's not just a hunting show. It's more of a people's show. It's a show about society, and particularly within the hunting society. We obviously have a Facebook page, just like all the other billions of people in the world. We open ours up to the public, to our viewers and fans. You look at it, it's 90% all content from other people. It's rarely about Remy or myself. We like to be able to share that opportunity because we have the platform with the television show to get people's videos out there and photos, and we love to have the commentary and the sharing between that. So, just close it up. We've got about 10 minutes or so before the next speaker comes on. Love to open it up to questions. You know, if any of you guys have questions, I'm going to turn off the mic or whatever and pop down here and walk amongst you. But just kind of cover things that maybe I didn't cover. So hopefully this presentation was a little bit about what you wanted and a little bit more than what you were expecting. So thank you all for coming. I really do appreciate it very much. So, if I can take any questions.